Okay, picture this. What if your town, your local community, actually held the keys to its very own digital economy? Welcome to this explainer, where today we are diving deep into Small Town OS. It's this completely revolutionary approach to what they call sovereign living. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of how it actually works, we really need to talk about this massive paradox and how our communities operate right now in the digital age. Just think about a forest for a second. Nature doesn't have a CEO, right? Yet forests absolutely thrive. It's this incredible concept of biomimicry. These complex, ancient ecosystems manage to prosper beautifully without any top-down central corporate authority telling them what to do. The resources just naturally flow exactly where they're needed. So it really makes you wonder, why on earth do we assume our local economies need some distant tech giant just to function?
Which brings up this massive, kind of mind-blowing question. What if the town itself actually owned the platform? Right now, if you look around, vibrant, unique small towns all over the world are basically outsourcing their entire digital economies to distant tech capitals. We're talking places like Silicon Valley or Tokyo. We've got the local businesses, we've got the local customers, but the digital roads actually connecting them? Yeah, those are owned by someone else entirely. And that right there perfectly captures what they call the small town paradox. We have all this rich local culture, but a completely outsourced digital economy. Like, people in a small town might absolutely love local life, but think about it. If they're using centralized apps to book a ride or order food, or if they're just wearing global brands dictated by some distant center, are they truly sovereign? Or are they just, geographic endpoints for someone else's network? The core argument here is that if a town is just acting as a tentacle for a distant authority, they really aren't maintaining their independence at all. Let's put a number on this. $5 million. That is an estimate of how much money literally bleeds out of a single town, like Kampot in Cambodia, for example, just through people using centralized apps like Grab or foreign point-of-sale systems. We are talking about money generated locally that just instantly vanishes from the community. It gets extracted as platform fees, software subscriptions, you name it. I mean, just imagine what $5 million could do for your own town's schools or parks or small businesses, instead of just being funneled away to some corporate headquarters halfway across the world. And when you extrapolate that kind of local leakage on a global scale, wow, we are staring down a $10 billion question. If just 8,000 towns manage to keep that value local instead of shipping it off, it could prevent a massive $10 billion drain every single year. So the fundamental goal here is simple but huge. It's about completely changing the direction of the flow, moving away from corporate extraction and shifting entirely toward community circulation. Really, it all boils down to two entirely different paradigms. The old model basically relies on digital colonization by distant corporations. You know the drill. They own the platform, they own all the data, and they get to set all the rules. But this alternative, it puts the power right back into the hands of the community. In this new model, the town actually owns its data. It chooses its own rules, and crucially, it directly shares in the benefits. So this isn't just about making things more convenient. This is literally a battle for ownership and figuring out who gets to control our economic future. Okay, so this brings us right back to that idea of biomimicry in tech. Remember that forest without a CEO we talked about? It organizes all this incredible complexity through mycelial networks. Intelligence is totally distributed, resources flow exactly to where they are needed most, and waste essentially becomes wealth. The manifesto we're exploring makes a really compelling point. If a natural ecosystem can organize itself this efficiently, a town's economy can absolutely do the exact same thing digitally. So the solution proposed in this source material is SmallTownOS. The best way to think about it, it's like the town's shared digital brain. It works a lot like the operating system on your smartphone, right? But instead of hosting a bunch of disconnected global apps, it acts as this shared digital infrastructure. It seamlessly connects local apps for rides, food delivery, hospitality, local co-ops, the whole shebang. It brings them all together to function as one cohesive, living community network. Let's actually break down the functional layers of this system, because it's not just an app, it is a public utility. You've got a public marketplace for discovery, merchant tools like point of sale and accounting, a local mobility network, and a community governance layer. And the really cool part is that it's all built on a highly technical foundation using decentralized networks, specifically the internet computer. Basically, that means the entire system runs on a public, tamper-proof blockchain instead of sitting on some private corporate server somewhere. To see this in action, we can look at Kampot Sol, which is their flagship proof of concept. Now, this isn't just a platform for using services, it is a platform for creating them. And here's where it gets really exciting. Artificial intelligence is radically lowering the cost of software creation right now. So this actually allows the community itself to build, use, fund, and adapt these digital tools completely independently. It is totally leveling the playing field for local developers and entrepreneurs.
And because the community actually owns the platform, the value stays in the community. It makes sense, right? Without those extractive corporate middlemen taking huge percentage cuts off the top, businesses get to enjoy lower operating costs through cooperative buying. Residents get better, way more affordable local choices, creators are supported directly, and the town gets to keep its local jobs and its economic activity. The wealth literally circulates right there where it was created. But the true beauty of SmallTownOS is how it scales. Every single town adds something to it, and in turn, every town gets stronger. The core operating system can actually be shared globally with other towns. But, and this is a huge but, it allows each town to keep its unique local soul, its own local data, and its own local rules. So you're sharing the software, sure, but you are fiercely protecting your sovereignty.
This all scales up into a wildly ambitious timeline. Starting from the present-day proof of concept in Compote, their midterm goal is to expand across Cambodia. But skip ahead to 2035, and the vision is just staggering. We're talking 10,000 sovereign towns, retaining over $8.6 billion locally. And the crazy part? The goal is to do all of this entirely as a decentralized network, operating forever, completely free from venture capital funding or corporate acquisitions. No buyouts.
Ultimately, it all boils down to one undeniable truth. Staying small doesn't mean staying poor. This is really the climax of the manifesto we're exploring. It makes the case that, for the very first time in the digital age, small towns and communities can achieve true economic prosperity, and they don't have to sacrifice their human scale, their identity, or their unique local culture to do it. Built by the community, shared with the world. The creators actually describe this whole project as a sort of Trojan horse for local sovereignty. The idea is to solve local problems so seamlessly that towns just naturally adopt this community-owned infrastructure without even realizing they've stepped into a totally new paradigm. So I'm going to leave you with this to chew on. How much value is bleeding out of your own town right now? And how could you start bringing a blueprint like this to your own community?